Heading via Zoom to Sydney to catch up with Account Director from PwC Eva Chye. Eva, I want to talk to you about innovation. Welcome to TheInformer.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No, we said we're going to do a regular segment where we'll reach out and talk about different subjects and we'll get you to contribute. Give us your sense of what we should be doing, what we should be striving for. Now, we keep hearing this magic word throughout the last months of 2020 because everyone wants the year to vanish very quickly. But everyone's been talking about how we need to innovate. And there's a big difference between innovation and the ability to innovate. One, to talk about it, and one to actually do. What do you make of that?
Well, absolutely. There's always a lot of excitement around innovation. I don't think people associate innovation with anything negative. And the funny thing though is people always associate it with technology, right? And yet, how many of us have been in either Zoom meetings or a presentation where it's hard to get up that piece of technology? And what's the first thing people say? Oh, technology. And then they have a bit of a chuckle and then they move on to traditional ways of presenting and talking to each other.
So they're set in their ways, yeah.
Absolutely set in their ways, and that's fine. What we really should be thinking about is innovation as a much more comprehensive concept. So the way I look at it is innovation would be, you can actually put it into 4 buckets.
Go on.
I call it culture, commitment, cost, and competition. That's the 4 buckets I put it in. Culture is whether an individual or a company is open to innovation. If we talk about a business, for instance, whilst management will say, yes, we need to innovate, in reality, in action, innovation actually takes time. Because in order to innovate, you need to experiment, you need costs, you might fail, and how much time and cost is management willing to do this? From an employee's perspective, they might go, how is this going to impact on my job? So there could be this fear piece around innovation, even though people are excited to talk about it. Putting it into action is another different thing.
Eva, I've always been a great believer that if we want to change things, we've got to change the way we think first. So I love the idea that you put them in buckets because they're clear. You can see how you bring these pieces together. Culture for companies like PwC is really important because you are playing with the world. You're on a global stage. You're doing business with some of the biggest firms in the world. So you have to understand the culture and even the language. Even you must understand that in different parts of the world, one of the greatest challenges we have is to make sure that it's not lost in translation. Is that a problem that you see also confronting many people?
We see that all the time. We see that all the time. Let's just say in my day job, right? So we go to a company, we bring them innovative ideas, and once again, it's going to be management looking at how much it's going to cost them and what is the return on investment of that product. On the other hand, on the other side of the equation, what the company could do is to actually innovate that product and try to come up with it on its own. But that actually incurs more cost and investment of time. So we really need to think about innovation in terms of what am I willing to put into it and what is my appetite for risk and what is my appetite for failure. And in my night job, I found that If Innovation Could Talk on LinkedIn, where we actually interview different people about different aspects of innovation. And it's very, very interesting when you actually delve into it and ask people, what does innovation mean to you? Then suddenly the conversation changes. Not once have I had anyone say to me it's about the technology, even with businesses that work with technology. They start talking about the mentality, the culture, and the people. That's what drives innovation.
Eva, when we're talking about innovation, I remember how culture plays an important role. And I think of Apple. Steve Jobs was remarkable at creating something that he wanted everyone to have. It had to be a must-have in their lives. Now, they didn't know what it would be, but he made it the iPhone. And that was a fantastic example for me to show how you can change minds, change ideas, and open them up to possibilities that they didn't even know about. Is that also part of the journey of trying to sell innovation?
Absolutely. There are not many people like Steve Jobs, let's face it. Most people are used to what we are used to, right?
Yes.
And people actually don't like change. Even though we talk about innovation, we don't like change because it's actually not very comfortable to change. And there's always cost involved. And there's that internal competition involved. So if you are actually going to invest into R&D, invest into putting into new product and coming up with new ideas and new product, then you have to have a lot of people around you to support you because something needs to give.
So is the thing that has to give the narrative? Is that the thing that we have to change?
I think the narrative is more around looking at innovation as a comprehensive concept. So instead of coming up with my own definition, which I have shared with you, let's go with what the Global Innovation Index has come up with, right? At least it's actually a recognized institution. It has got, in fact, what it has done is it has actually looked at innovation from a multi-dimensional perspective and come up with 80 different ways to evaluate and measure innovation, both of an input and output sense. And essentially from input, you need to look at infrastructure. You need to look at the institutions around that infrastructure. You need to look at human capital and research, market sophistication, and business sophistication. So there's all these things that you really need to explore in order to turn ideas into actions.
I love it. The thing that you reminded me yet again, when you bring all these points together, it's getting not only the idea and the hope and the dream across to all the players involved, but convincing them and getting them to buy in. I tend to use a lot of sporting analogies, and my view is you can turn a losing team into a winning team if you can convince everyone that what they need to do collectively will allow them to move from losers to winners.
I like that. I like that a lot.
All right. What I like is we need to get more of Eva Chye on TheInformer. I want to talk to you next week if we can talk about what we should prepare ourselves for 2021, because Lord knows 2020 is in the distance or fast approaching the rearview mirror. We want to get rid of it pronto. And what should we be doing to make sure that we're ready for 2021? Can we do that next week?
Sounds good. Looking forward to it, George.
Thank you, Eva. All the best. Eva Chye joining us on TheInformer.